Jira, bug, UE, blah 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 blah. Well, maybe that's something we can go look at. So this is using an orthographic camera, all point lights set to movable or stationary, stop rendering while playing in the editor. It's all broken in the standalone game. So all this stuff is inside of engine shaders and light rendering. So what did he do here? He's messing around with the screen to world settings and all that. And that's also something we could take a look at, is if we go ahead and boot up the editor here, and if we set this point light to static and then rebuild lighting, maybe it'll work then. So let's mess with this guy. Let's say you're movable, and then play. Nothing. Say you're static. Alright. We'll say he's static, and then we'll rebuild that lighting. Of course, we're doing a lot of stuff right now. Computer's about to explode, but that's okay. It's got a lot of computer to compute with, so we can just draw a whole hell of a lot of power from the wall and do what we need to, because we got a monster under our desk here. And that is not a sexual innuendo. That is just a gigantic computer sitting there, warming the basement. So let's see, does static have anything to do with this? Absolutely not. Nothing to do with any of this. Well, there's at least that. So let's go ahead and pop out of the editor, and let's get WinMerge going here. And we are going to want to look at the difference between 414 Interesting. There's a lot of stuff in here. Let's go to the it's not Slate RHI. Maybe it is. Scene visibility is not a big deal. Scene rendering. Let's look for line 707. Oh wow, this is like totally different, isn't it? This is renderer, private, scene rendering. Yeah, this is like way different. Well, let's see. It's gonna be source, runtime, rendering, I believe. Yeah, renderer, engine, source, runtime, rendering. Alright, so as we'd expect, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's different. Let's take a look at some of the specific things that might have anything to do with it, which would be like our light rendering.cpp. This was 725. Can we view? So what is different here? Conspool, camera inside light, geometry, view matrices, view origin, minus light bound center. Light bound center size squared is less than light bounds W plus 0.5 near clip distance times 2. Ooh, alright. Yeah, this is... Or is not... Oh, this is interesting. We've got a to-do right here with our thing, which is or not view perspective projection. Alright, well it looks like his addition got in there, which was the perspective projection stuff. So they got some stuff messed up with perspective projection, ortho projection. Yeah, always draw back faces in ortho. Okay, so they got some hacks real deep inside of their code here that have to do with light rendering. All right, let's also take a look at the scene rendering CPP. So they changed all of this stuff to how it worked. If scene and skylight, comparing lighting is valid. Yeah, they got some stuff that's odd looking. Let's see, what is different here? Not much. Why are those different? View matrix. They don't look different. Alright, well that looks decent. Scene visibility is another one I want to look at. And use scene depth. Reflections, no. Looking for yeah, we're looking for here, and what's the difference? We were adding the oh, this was just a in view frustum. Yeah, okay, so they have another is perspective projection hack going on here. But yeah, they're basically, they've got it so it'll just render regardless. So we want to look in their shaders now, is actually what we want to do. So it's source, it's engine shaders. So we're looking for the deferred pixel shader, deferred light pixel shader. Support shadows, no, that's not there. Tiled deferred. Yeah, it doesn't look like it works at all. Alright, so yeah. So I think we're just gonna have to go with our forward shading if we want the lighting, and I'm pretty sure we want the lighting. Like, we want spotlights, we want lights working properly. So that basically means that we're cutting off certain segments of our target market, 10% or less than 10% of our users, so like 8% of people would not be able to play the game with, they need DirectX 11. Or we'd have to build in some quality settings for them. I'm fine with that. Like, we're not a AAA budget title. So that's the price. That's the price we have to pay. So let's go check that box again, shall we? That sucks. I hate doing that, but like, I'm sorry, but we need accurate lighting. Like, what's troubling is just that it's wrong. Like, I would like it to just not work. Yeah, you know, as opposed to work but be like in all the wrong places and all the wrong math. It's like, oh, that's not okay, Unreal. So this is which light is actually lighting our entire world as this red awful thing? Is this directional light? Yeah. So we're gonna make it white. This white directional light of incredible intensity. Let's just set it to 5. Let's see how that looks. Or maybe just a 1. Just a little bit of light. And I would like a spotlight. And I'd like to see what that looks like too. Let's make it super intense. So let's save that and build it and see if it looks anywhere near like what we want. Man, looking at some stuff. All right, so we got that lighting built. So let's take a look at it. hard to know how all this stuff is supposed to work. So let's see, we want this directional light. I think we'll just get rid of it. And I want to see what this looks like. So we're double checking all the lighting does what it should do for our corrected scene and all that. Yeah, and it does look like it works there. See, the shadow on Bitey is working as you would expect it to for the hard edge of part of it, but it's not. Yeah, you can see it kind of there. I guess maybe the point light is interfering with it. Yeah, it's definitely looking like the point light is messing with it. So, Mr. Point Light, let's just make you small. And that's kind of our shadow, which is looking like what we want. It's just you know, the foreground is the foreground, and it's being lit, you know, in an odd way. And we'd want to do a few things to fix exactly how that looks. Probably have to rebuild the lighting to see it. Well, let's rebuild that lighting and see if it... We're kind of slowly learning what we have to do to play with lighting, all that. And if we have to rebuild lighting like all the frickin' time, it's like, ugh, that's gonna be a bit of a headache. But I want to see like, kind of if we can use spotlights, how effective are they, and what's the best way to use them? You know, maybe it's best to use spotlights going into the world. Yeah, like this. This spotlight here is like not affecting anything. And the question is, why not? If we move it all the way down, it's like super concentrated and should work. There's got to be some fall off. Okay, so there is. All right, there we go. Oh, Jesus Christ. Alright, so you don't have to rebuild lighting for spotlights. So it looks like, yeah, spotlights can work on this 2D stuff. It'd be nice if the spotlights were not 3D. Like, instead of having a cone, if we could have a box, you know? So what I can kind of do is I can kind of play with this so that it's straight along those edges, at least some of them. It's not super great, though. Alright, so overhead spotlights doesn't look like it works super great. Let's try a... Should be writing down some of these notes. Point lights seem to work. Overhead spotlights look weird with the terrain. We'll see how a spotlight looks like this. So I could see that working. A head-on spotlight doesn't look awful. Let's try flipping it around. Yeah, so it doesn't work the other way. That's fine. Let's see. So why don't we also test a few other things, such as casting shadows with objects like this. Well, we can't do it with this bush, so let's do it with this block. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Let's give this thing a material. Let's do Dashkin entity sprite material. This material definitely has. Why can't I cast shadows with this? Okay, so it was just the editor being a total pain in the ass. Let's see. Shadow of two-sided, hidden shadow, effect dynamic, indirect light, dynamic shadow, static shadow, volumetric translucent shadow, self shadow only, far shadow, dynamic insert. We probably have to build the lighting, don't we, for that. Let's see if we can do that. So let's see. No, it's still not there. So why not? So cast shadows on, self shadow, volumetric, translucent. Ah, it's a damn fly flying around annoying me. Yeah, we should be seeing, you know, like the shadow behind there, but we're not. Well, let's see. What's our message log say? Registration has to be movable if you'd like it to move. In the spotlight, cast translucent shadows. Yes, dynamic, indirect. Whether the light should be injected into the light propagation volume. Well, how come it shows up as shadow in the editor, but not in the game itself, you know? Maybe I need to build the lighting again? I should probably look up translucent shadows. Well, I mean, shadows are working in perspective mode, but they're not working in orthographic mode. Again, this is another one of those differences, isn't it? So, let's take a look. Translucent shadows not working in orthographic camera, Unreal 4. Shadows not working in orthographic. If a directional was made to be movable from stationary, it would lose all shadows, and going back to stationary, these shadows would remain until the lighting was rebuilt. So let's see, what is this? Have we made this thing? A static light can't be changed in the game. Fully baked lighting, fastest rendering. Stationary light will only have its shadowing and bouncing light. All other lighting Movable lights can be moved and changed in the game. Totally dynamic. Full scene, dynamic shadows, slowest rendering. So let's make it movable. And let's take a look at this material real quick and see if there's anything with like translucent, lit, translucency, apply fog, and all that crap. Self-shadowing, I don't see anything there. Alright, we're building the lighting. Alright, very interesting. Okay, so what's going on? Stick is currently backlogged at the moment. When using the orthographic camera perspective with default light settings to stationary for directional light sources, other light sources work as intended. The shadows, when set to stationary, will clip in and out or not be visible. Backlogged. Jesus Christ. Okay, so like, man, that sucks. So a lot of the things that we want with lighting just don't work for an orthographic camera. Oh, it's so retarded. Maybe we could experiment, I guess, with a perspective camera which is set to crazy widths and stuff like that. Let's actually throw a different camera in here. Because this is playing in the editor and all that. Crap. Alright, so orthographic translucent shadows. So let's try changing this spotlight to static, and this object to static, and we'll rebuild it. Interesting. Now it doesn't work at all. With shadows, that is. Like, shadows just don't work then. What? Lit shrub totally has. We're just gonna. Partially baked lighting, dynamic shadows with movable objects. That's pretty much what we want. You son of a bitch, fly. Like, it's there, the shadows are there. Looks like static spotlights don't work. Don't work with shadows. This is just kind of nuts that like we're going through all these different cases with lighting and the rest where Unreal just doesn't work. I am stunned again with lacking stuff that doesn't work in the engine. It just doesn't make much sense to me. So let's see if we turned this stuff from static to stationary. If that does anything for us. Yeah, it's basically that like the orthographic camera stuff, I guess, just is not something that Unreal cares about that much. Well, that's just interesting there as well. Like, the shadows don't pop up until this thing is far enough away. Sorry about throwing the mic. I just went and murdered the fly. So, that's what happens. That's what happens when you're dealing with lighting that doesn't work properly. So I'm not impressed by this stuff with translucent shadows. Just don't seem to be working correctly with these objects. You know what? It's probably just that this lighting is built wrong. God, Tom Sarvo has been shipped. Nice. So you finally get your Mystery Science Theater 3000 puppets and all that or whatever. That's pretty cool. Oh, interesting. It could be that we just have really shitty settings for this thing. It could also be something else going on here. Like, simple lines of coding? Usually not simple stuff. Like, simple stuff's simple. I usually look up like a reference, like, especially if I forget exactly the syntax of something, I'll just copy paste it from somewhere else. But tutorials, I don't know, tutorials really aren't helpful. Because most of the time it takes them 30 million years to get to what is actually useful, and it's real pain in the ass. So my suspicion here is that there's something else messing with us. So in reality, this, well, it's not necessarily copy paste there. It's the it's just instead of, like, the most common thing I look up is just not necessarily, you know, how to do like some basic operation. It's more of just like, I don't remember the exact, does a brace go here or not, sort of stuff. Like, is it an uppercase C or a lowercase c on cast, or something like that. So what I'm betting is happening is there's something going on here where maybe, because how our camera works, right, if you remember, is it's a sandwich, and it may be that our near clip for our orthographic projection is basically preventing this shadow from working, because this bush isn't getting drawn during our render pass. So what we'd want to do is we want to make sure that this bush is inside of the orthographic plane here, and casting a shadow on us, but it doesn't look like even that's working. So this is movable, this is movable, this is movable. Let's see if we build this lighting, if we'll actually get the lighting on the far bush in either methods. Yeah, I find it a lot easier to look at, reference manuals and stuff like that later than it is for like somebody droning on and on for 30 minutes before they actually click the button that does the thing. And you're like, thank you, that's all I needed was, that 2 seconds out of the entire